Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome back for another card video. Today's card has this origami box that my daughter, who's 11, showed me how to make, and so I thought it'd be really cute for a Valentine's Day card. I'll show you how it works. I have it tied, but you don't necessarily have to tie it. It lays pretty flat. I used wrapping paper to actually create the box. You could use origami paper also. So it says filled with love, so the recipient unties the bow, and when you open it, it's a box that's laying on the card front, and there's a little cat surprise on the inside. And so anyway, that's how it works, and I'm going to show you how to fold it in real time. So that's why this video is a little longer. I'm using the Three Amigos set, this cat, and then I'm also using the Filled with Love set by Simon Says Stamp. It has some really cute little hearts in it. And I'm going to start by stamping my cat with some Memento Tuxedo black ink on Nina Solar White cardstock. This is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 so that it'll fit right inside my box. The sign for this little kitty, the words come, there's tons of words in this set, and I, love, and you are separate words, which is nice because then you can stack them any way you want. I'm going to stamp the love in the center first, and then I'll do the I and the U. These stamps are so tiny that you have to be careful not to smush them, so just a light tap onto the cardstock will get the ink down there and you won't smush your letters. For the cat, I'm going to have 3 colors here. I've got Y21, and I'm going to color the whole top up to the center, which I'm going to leave white. And this is real time now. I'm going to use baby circles with my Zero colorless blender to blend that hard edge of the Y21 so that I have white fur that's fading into this yellow color. And as long as you kind of push it outward a little bit more than just the edge, you'll get a nice clean blend. I'm going to do that very same thing on the bottom, leaving a little white spot on his belly. So I'll start in the white area, just kind of push my colorless blender outward until I blend that harsh line. I'm going to add some stripes later. I'm going to let that dry a little bit. So I'm going to work on his paws, which I'm coloring YR24 and Y21, just those 2 colors. And the same thing for his ears. I know these look a little darker, but once I get the stripes in, it'll all look nice together. So for my stripes, I'm going to take my YR24, so it's just like a medium orangey color. I'm going to start wide and then go back and forth until I get to a tip. So it's kind of like creating triangles on the top, but they're kind of jagged on the side, so it looks a little bit more natural like his real fur. And so anyway, I'm going to speed this up, and I'm going to put some triangles on both sides of his face. And because I turned it upside down here, I kind of lost track of where I was on his head, and that one on the right was a little bit too high. So to fix that, I just took my Y21, which was my base color, and I just kind of colored it all around until it blended together. Then I took my medium color again and created a new one on top. And it's so small it wasn't even noticeable, I didn't think. So I'm going to continue around this cat. I'm going to do 2 on each side of his body, and then I'll do 3 more on the bottom. Then I'll take my E99, and I'm just going to tap it a little tap of color on the bottom of each of these triangles. And it's not going to blend. It doesn't look like it blends right now, but I'm going to fix that in a second. So just put a little tap of color at the bottom of each of these triangles. And now I'll take my YR24, which is what I used to draw the triangles, and I'm just going to blend it out a tiny little bit, just where the E99 is, just kind of over that color a little bit. Not bringing it all the way out, but just to blend that harsh line that I created with the E99. For the grass, I'm using YG09, YG25, and I like to flick upwards, and then as I get out, I start flicking toward the side, and I kind of peter out at the end there. And for underneath my animals, I like to just do a little bit of dots for grass because it's kind of smushed there because he's sitting on it. And I'm doing the grass so that he looks grounded. He's not just floating in the middle of nowhere. I'll go back in and fill it in with my YG25, which is just a little bit of a lighter green, and just kind of put it in between there to have a little bit of color variation. I wanted to add a little bit of pink to tie in with my wrapping paper box. So I grabbed a couple of these little hearts, one's solid and one's just an outline. And I'm going to stamp the bigger one in Rosebud Memento Luxe ink. It's just a really pretty pink color that matches my wrapping paper really well. I really like these inks a lot, but you do have to re-ink them. So if you're going to buy some, I would advise you to also get the re-inker at the same time. So I'm going to randomly place these hearts around his head, and then I'm using Love Letter. It's just a red color, and I'm going to fill it in with this smaller empty heart. And rather than leaving those hearts empty, I'm going to color them in. This is a clear Jelly Roll pen that's called Stardust, and it has just a very light gold shimmer. It's kind of delicate, and I really love this pen a lot. And you can get a pretty fine line out of it. All right, now let's move on to the box. So I'm using wrapping paper. I would recommend any double-sided wrapping paper. I think if you can get one side solid and one side pattern, you're going to get the best look for your box. I'm going to take my ruler just to measure 10 inches by 10 inches. I'm just roughly cutting this as if I'm cutting paper for a present. It's not exact at all. So I'm actually going to use 8 by 8. So I'm just cutting 10 by 10 to make sure I have enough room to get straight lines all the way around. So I'm going to fold this in half, and it doesn't have to be exact. I just want that straight line. Now I'm using my new Fiskars Precision Trimmer. I'm not going to say too much about it right now. I just got it, but so far it's really awesome. It cuts a nice clean line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my fold and put it at the top. I'm just going to cut an edge. I'm not really measuring anything. I just want a nice clean edge on the right side. Then I'll flip it over, and then remember I want an 8 by 8 sheet. So I'm going to measure 8 inches over here on the left. And now I've got that left edge straight, I've got my top edge straight, and now I'll have my right edge straight at 8 inches. And then finally I can rotate this so that my fold is now on the number 4, so I'm measuring 4 inches out. And then I get a final straight edge on that last side. This blade is self-sharpening, and it is very tight, so when I pull it down, it's really cutting straight across the paper. I'm feeling really good about this trimmer. And I'll have more on it for you later. But anyway, so now I've got an exact 8 by 8 sheet of wrapping paper. Now I'm going to do this fold in real time so you can kind of follow along with me if you have your paper already cut. So I already folded it once, so now I'm going to unfold it, turn it 90 degrees, and now I'm going to fold it in the other direction. I'm going to use a bone folder, but you don't want to press too hard because wrapping paper is a little bit more delicate than cardstock. Now I'm going to unfold that and turn it to the diagonal, and then I'm going to fold it on the diagonal, and again using my bone folder to make sure I get a nice crisp edge every single time. And then I'm going to unfold it, and I'm going to fold it in the opposite direction. So we're doing a lot of folding and unfolding, but we're kind of creating all of the scored areas so that everything folds down perfectly when it's time to kind of put the box together. And you can see my edges are not exactly perfect, and that's okay. And the great thing about the wrapping paper is that it is forgiving. So now I'm going to unfold that, and I'm going to fold in my corners to the center. So each corner should be folded so they all meet in the center. And I'm going to use my bone folder each time. And this kind of reminds me of the fortune tellers we used to make when we were kids. So you're following those same exact instructions. And I'm just going to go all the way around. And you can see I've got some polka dots showing through. Again, I'm not the perfect folder, but it's okay. It's all going to work out in the end. You don't have to be too exact. I forgot to mention that the heart that shows on the front of the box is actually the pattern that's on the inside. So you want to have your solid color be on the outside that you're folding around. Okay, next I'm going to unfold it again. And this time I'm going to take my corner and I'm going to fold it to my first crease line. So it's about 1/3 of the way in. So I'm going to fold that. I'll fold it again. And then when I fold it the third time, I should hit the center of my 8 by 8 sheet. So you should line up right there with that center line, and then nice and crisp with the bone folder. Flip it over and do the same exact thing. So 3 times. So we've got 1, 2, and then 3. And these lines are already scored since we've folded all that and unfolded it. So these should fold pretty easily. I decided that now is a good time to put my cat, my message, on the inside. So once you get it into a box, it's really hard to get that piece of cardstock inside. So I'm going to do it while my box is unfolded. This is 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. I'm going to put some ATG on the back, and then I'll center it right there over the center point. And we did all those folds, so it should be easy to find. So now I'm going to go back, and those folds I did 3 times over, I'm just going to put those back into place. So now you can't see my cat. And this next part is probably the trickiest. What you're going to do is find your center point, and you're going to pull up one side. And what I want to do is I want to take this edge and line it up with my center point. It's going to feel a little bit awkward when you're doing this, but really focus on the bottom part and you should be able to make it go across that seam and then use your finger to kind of push it across. So again, this top edge against the center point. So I'm just going to fold it around, and again, it's going to be a little bit awkward, but it's amazing how it folds perfectly once you get these little creases made. So I'm going to push my finger to the corner, and then I'm going to push the whole thing down. And this happens, it looks like it's going to be hard, but it just folds right down so easy. And then I'll take my bone folder and make sure it's nice and clean. And now I'm going to fold my outside 3 edges to the center. So that's 1, I'm going to flip it over, 2, and then finally that top point will go to the center. And then once I have these 3 points, I'm going to fold it in half. So right here, my polka dot goes around. And you can see it's not exactly all the way to the edge, and that's just because my folding is not exactly perfect, but it's fine. So I'm going to repeat this on the other side. So we'll do it again. Here's my center point. I'm going to lift up my edge, pull it out, and take this piece and line it up with my center line. And I'll just crease it to the corner with my finger. And then I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing from side to side. Crease it with my finger. And then when I turn it and I flatten it, it'll fold right down. Use my bone folder. And then I'll fold those points to the center again, those 3 points. And you can see my wrapping paper is kind of a little wrinkled, but that's okay. That's the nice thing about the wrapping paper, is that you can kind of crunch it up and fold it and it lays flat. All right, and then finally that half. Actually, I picked up the other half by accident. So now I've got 2 polka dot sides showing. And this is basically the fold. So I'm going to make sure that I have everything totally flat. And then you can see how this is my polka dot part. That's going to be my heart. And when I open it, the box opens. Well, I'm upside down. The box opens. So you could leave it as a box if you want to. I thought it was kind of cute to have a heart on the front. So I'm going to take my flaps and fold them. So on the bottom part, I'm just going to flip it over and fold it toward the back. And the bottom part, I'm going to go all the way to the center point. So it's the bottom of my heart on both sides. And then I'll take the top corners of my heart and I'm going to fold them about halfway in, so I don't get as much of a fold, so that it looks like it's curving a little higher, because that's what the heart shape is. I can make them even because they're right on top of each other so I can see. And then I decided to do the top inside here because the heart comes in. Now these are going to have to unfold to open the box. So they'll kind of fold and unfold every time you open it up, but I thought it was fine to have because the first time the person opens the box is the most important. So I'm going to really press those together, and this is getting pretty thick. So if you have regular cardstock, this is almost getting really, really hard, almost impossible to do, to make these folds, because they're small folds and it's really getting thick with all those layers. All right, so I'm going to put everything down, and now you can see the heart. And you can see how that top part opens up a little bit so that the box can open, but all you have to do is kind of fold them in. Just make sure that they're folded in when you put it in the envelope. And that is my origami fold. So for my card base, I'm putting these X's and O's from Stampin' Up. My camera turned off. This is a Project Life Remember This set. If you don't have this set, then you can use pretty much, I mean, you can use a word, you could use hearts or diamonds or circles or anything. I'm just going to show you, they didn't exactly land at the end the way they should, you know, finishing the stamp. So I just inked it up first, then covered up the part that I didn't want to stamp, and then I stamped it down on the edge. So I knew that I was going to hit it just the way I needed to. Now you'll notice that some of my stamps didn't come out perfectly just because I don't know, I just wasn't, there's a lot of stamping here, so it's not all going to be perfect. But it's no big deal because it's a pattern. Nobody's really going to be inspecting every single element. So I just took a black pen rather than trying to stamp it again and potentially ruin a bigger area. I just took a marker and I just filled in the gaps. With the outside of this card being so exciting, I felt like I needed something on the inside besides blank. So I'm taking this Hearts Background by Simon Says Stamp. I'm inking it up with Pink Pirouette, Stampin' Up! Ink. Now I'm going to stamp off, and then I'll cover my left inside with Post-its. And then I'm going to stamp it on the part that I'm going to write my message. And so this is going to be kind of like a really cool background that you can write on top of, because it's really, really subtle. It's pink and it's stamped off, so it's just kind of something different and fun. I also wanted a message on the outside, so I'm going to take my 2 center hearts and my Little Bee heart dies, and I'm going to cut the heart with the crosses, like the kisses, around the edge. And I'm going to take this stamp from that same Filled with Love set. It says Filled with Love, that's the stamp I chose, and I'm going to stamp that right on my heart. And that way it's kind of like, okay, it's filled with love, I better open it. So I'm going to put some ATG just on the right side of my heart, and I'm going to place it just below the center line of my heart, right in the middle. And so it's going to adhere to the right side, so when it's opened, it'll stick to the right, but it'll let the left open up. All right, now it's time to put the twine on it. You can see everything's ruined because the first time I did this, I cut the twine way too short. So make sure you cut it really, really long. I would say probably 18 inches or so. And I'm going to lay it on the back of my box. And I'm just using a piece of plain old Scotch tape. And I thought this would be nice to really adhere it into place on the back of the box. So I'm going to place that right on my twine and make sure it's going straight across my heart. And I wanted it to be on the widest part of the heart, and that's why I put it just above the center. And then I'll take my ATG and put some tape runner on the back here. And you can see where I ripped it off the base. And everything was fine. It was all underneath and you couldn't see. So I'll put that right there in the center. And now I'm going to show you how I tied this bow. So you're going to put the left under the right and create your first knot. Okay, and then you're going to tie it. This is for righties, so you have to reverse it for lefties. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my left thumb and I'm going to hold my knot into place, make my loop with the right, then take my 4th finger, replace my thumb, and that frees up all my fingers to do my looping around and pull. And so I'll pull it while my 4th finger is still there, and once my knot gets to the bottom, I can let go. So anyway, hope that helps you a little bit. It actually took me quite a few tries to figure out what the best way was to tie this, because you really want it to be tight. So I'm just going to pull my tails to make sure that my bows are the right size and just kind of play with it a little bit. And I'm going to leave it nice and long. And so that is the card for today. It's really fun, so cute, and I love the little kitty. So I'm going to pull the string, open it up, and then you pull the edges of the heart. And here's your cute little surprise. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed that, and I will see you next time. Happy Valentine's Day.